Don't call an ambulance. If you love your life. The heavy voice was barely audible, cut into pieces by the heavy sigh of breath and the cold mist that froze the morning air. Blood flows from the temple of a strange man sprawled on a snowy street in a small corner of the small district of Snowdonia, Wales. Clara's heart beat wildly. His hand trembled, half clutching a mobile phone ready to press the emergency button. Clara Amott is 26. Year old, working part-time in her late father's old bookstore, never expected that a quiet morning would turn into a dream that threatened her logic. His eyes could not escape the man. His long black suit was torn in parts, an expensive watch slipped partially from his left wrist. But what was most striking was his gaze, full of pleas and threats. "Who are you?" Clara asked, her voice hoarse, half scared, half curious. The man tried to smile, although his lips were covered with blood. "It doesn't matter. The important thing is, you're the only one who saw me fall out of that car." Clara turned her head briefly towards the black SUV that had crashed into the guardrail, far behind them. The car was abandoned. No sirens. No one came to help. Just quiet. Just the wind. Only she and the man were now struggling to hold back his consciousness. "If the police knew I was here, they would also know where they were, and that killed us all." Clara froze. Clara Thompson is not a girl who likes surprises. He lives in comfortable order, taking care of his father's bookstore, reading classic novels in between, and avoiding conflicts like avoiding a hurricane. He knew the outside world was full of chaos, but his life was too calm to think that the chaos could arrive directly on the doorstep of his small shop. But that morning, his light footsteps brought a disaster that he could not return to his original place. With an instinct faster than logic, Clara dragged the man's body to the back of the store. His breath was choked with cold and fear that pierced like knives. He didn't know that the man he saved wasn't just anyone. Little did he know that the blood on his skin would be the key to a royal scandal that has never been made public. Inside the back room of the store, with neon lights flashing softly and the smell of old paper enveloping, the man opened his eyes slowly. "I'm Harry." Clara turned quickly. "Harry? Who?" He just shut up. But from the look in his eyes, he knew. He knew it wasn't just a name. "I am Prince. But you don't believe everything the media says." Clara laughed wryly. "And I am Queen Elizabeth, who has just risen from the grave." But there was something in his tone that made his laughter freeze in the air. Not because of the cold, but because a bad premonition was lurking in him. As he touched the man's jacket pocket and found an identity card, it said, HRH Henry Windsor, complete with royal insignia. Clara knew her life would never be the same again. The man, Harry, carried wounds that were more than physical. All night, in fever and pain, he raved about treason, wiretapping, palace conspiracies, and threats to his wife and child hidden abroad. Clara took care of him without knowing which to believe: fear, empathy, or a hunch that he was getting into an enigma from which there was no map. Meanwhile, from a distance, a black car without a license plate flashed its dim lights. Two figures inside observed the old bookstore, noting Clara's movements. They don't talk. They're just biding their time. Clara, innocent woman, too trusting of others. Ever since her father died, she felt empty, stuck in a routine. But behind her purple face, she harbors a trauma from childhood, the mysterious disappearance of her mother when she was 5 years old. She didn't know that the past was connected to Harry. Harry, haunted by guilt, suspicious of everyone, and haunted by the pressures of being an unwelcome son of the king of power. He carries with him a great secret about the royal family, a secret that leads him to be hunted by those who want him to disappear from the world map. As Clara was about to turn off the store lights and return to the room to check on Harry, the sound of the creaking of a broken window split the night. He turned around and found a figure in a black mask standing in the central room of the store, pointing a gun at him. "Take us to him, or you die on the spot." 3 seconds. It was the only time Clara had to choose between the lives of strangers lying unconscious in her room, or his own life. The masked man's hand did not tremble in the slightest as he pointed the gun towards his chest. His eyes were sharp, like a beast that smelled blood. Behind him, 2 other figures emerged from the darkness, carrying small flashlights and communication devices in their ears. They're not ordinary robbers. It's coordinated. Here, hunting. Clara felt her skin shiver, not only because of the piercing night air, but because her instinct screamed, it's not about money. It's a murder in disguise. This is execution. I don't know who he is. I found her on the street. I just wanted to help. Clara took a step back, but her boots hit the bookshelf. The crackle of wood fills the room. The flashlight is directed to his face point. One of them opened his mouth. His voice was calm and deep. You think we're stupid? You think he's just a regular guy? Answer this. Did he say his name was Henry? Clara shut up. It was his fault. The first man pulled the trigger. Trek. But before the bullet fired, the sound of blam, another exploded from the direction of the stairs. The masked man's body bounced off his chest, was bleeding. Two colleagues immediately reversed direction. Clara screamed and threw herself on the floor, crawling in panic among the fragments of glass. From the shadow on the top of the stairs, someone stood while holding his chest and brandishing a small silver pistol. His face was pale. Her lips are bleeding. Harry. Clara could only look at him in disbelief. He almost died. The man who last night could barely stand up now saved her with the calm of a secret agent. Harry couldn't stand for long. He collapsed, his face pale again. The masked man who was shot died on the spot, while the other two fled in the dark of the night. Police. I can't. Harry sternly said, if you call the police, we're both gone before morning. In the middle of an increasingly quiet night, Clara covered Harry's body with a blanket and wiped the blood from his forehead. He sat in a chair by the window, trying to understand everything. He replayed everything in his head. Harry is no ordinary man. He was shot. He saved her. He said he couldn't trust the police. And now, there's a body on the shop floor. It's not a movie. It's alive. But it feels more chaotic than any movie. Clara was angry. Don't understand. What exactly happened? Who are they? Harry looked down, struggling to catch his breath. People who are paid by the people you trust the most. Clara began to question herself. Why didn't she hand Harry over to the authorities in the first place? Is it out of pity? Feeling curious? Or because for the first time in his flat life and full of old books, he felt alive? Harry, on the other hand, seemed more nervous. She spoke softly in her sleep, calling the names Archie, Megan, and Charles too personal to be mere paranoia. Meanwhile, from behind a secret room hidden in Westminster, a white-haired old man watches a CCTV screen showing an old bookstore in Snowdonia. Behind him, his aide said quietly, "We lost 2 people tonight." The old man did not move. Just say, immediately send someone more close. Someone he wouldn't have suspected. In the morning, Clara woke up to the sound of someone knocking on the door of the store. With a pounding heart, he peered out of the curtain. A handsome man was standing outside. Neat brown hair, wearing a long suit and carrying a small suitcase. He smiled. "Good morning. Sorry to interrupt. I was told this store holds World War II vintage books. May I come in?" Clara swallowed. The man's face, too perfect, too clean, too punctual. Thought he doesn't know. But we do know. He's not a regular book buyer. His name is William Heath, and he is a former intelligence agent who now works directly under the right hand of Prince Charles III. While Clara served the book buyer in the front room, Harry, who was asleep in the back room, slowly opened his eyes. Breathing is heavy. He knew something wasn't right. He got up, and when he looked out of the crack of the door, his eyes widened. The man's face, the man who now sat in front of Clara, was one of the 3 people who used to follow him in Paris the night before Prince Diana's car accident. Clara. Don't trust him. But he was too weak to speak, and the man has already reached out to the shelf. The hand that touched the small gun was hidden behind the suitcase. If you really knew who you were protecting, Clara, you would regret ever letting him into your house. William's voice sounded low and slippery, like a snake that had just infiltrated its nest. Clara stiffened. The man's hand was no longer holding the suitcase. It was something hidden under the jacket. At that moment, Clara knew, this is not about a World War book. The air inside the bookstore was freezing. Only the ticking of an old clock on the wall seemed to be getting slower. William smiled, but his eyes were piercing. He walked down the bookshelf, his fingers touching the backs of the books like an executioner picking out his sword. Clara followed his movements, trying to stay calm. "Why do you ask about war books?" he asked, trying to buy time. "Because I'm writing something. About the buried truth," William replied casually. "And this place, too quiet for a regular store. Especially with 2 different footprints on the back floor." Clara gasped. He turned his head involuntarily towards the back curtain of the store. "A fatal mistake." William grinned. "You just confessed." In the back room, Harry opened his eyes. The wound on his shoulder began to dry, but his pulse had not subsided. He heard that voice. William Heath, a man who worked for his father, but not as a royal servant, more like a family trouble cleaner. Harry reached for a small flashlight he had hidden under a pile of books. He knew, if Clara said one wrong word, William would shoot her on the spot. He has to act. Now, you're not a writer, Clara murmured at last. He looked at William with a calm look he didn't know he had. And if you know who he is, you know he's not a criminal. William leaned his body against the bookshelf. He's more than just a criminal. Him, anathema to the British monarchy. He's embarrassing. He, the son of a woman who was murdered for being too human. Clara cut in. For a moment, William froze. That's not an empty statement. That's a slap in the face to history. Harry, in his mind, returned to the night in Paris. His mother, Lady Diana, said one thing before they got into the car. If something happens tonight, never be silent. Don't be a puppet. Choose who you are, Harry. That night he lost his mother, and from that moment on, he lost faith in his family, the system, and even himself. Harry appeared from behind the curtain. He's weak, but his eyes light up. He lifted the old iron pipe and hit William on the shoulder from behind. The man fell, the weapon bounced off the floor. Clara screamed, then immediately took the gun, pointing it at William, who was now panting on the floor. Harry leaned back on the shelf, blood dripping again from his shoulder. He's going to kill us both. Now you see, Clara, this is not a game. Police? Impossible. Let William go? Suicide. Clara stared at the gun in her hand. His hands were shaking. He has never held a gun in his life. His heart is rebellious. He is not a murderer, but in front of him, the man grinned. You can't pull that trigger. Innocent, innocent, just like your mother. Clara froze. You know my mother? William nodded. He helped someone he shouldn't have helped. But the difference is, he pays with his life. That's when Harry said quietly, in a trembling voice, Clara, what's your mother's last name? Clara swallowed. Marion. Marion Ashford. Harry's face turned pale. He shook his head slowly, as if finding a ghost in his life. Oh my God. Clara, your mother is. He saved me from terrorists when I was 7 years old. Clara slowly lowered the gun. His voice was low. You remember him? Harry nodded. He died because of me. And now, you're involved, too. Outside the shop, the black car stopped slowly. A girl came out dressed in a gray suit with a royal pin on her chest. Behind him, 4 armed men silently waited for the signal. The woman stared at the old shop and said quietly into the small microphone on her jacket, Target tracked. Execution or arrest permit. Another voice answered, from a distance. Calm, cool, and powerful. Capture alive. My son must understand. Who's in actual control? King Charles III, that if you are reading this letter, it means that I failed to make you live freely. A female voice was heard from the old recording, quivering between the hiss of the tape and the sound of the wind howling outside the old building. Harry closed his eyes. Clara looked at him, the pulse on her neck beating fast. It was a voice, my mother. The old car was speeding through an English forest soaked by drizzle. Clara held the steering wheel tightly, while Harry next to her held the makeshift bandaged wound. Turn left. We have to get north before they activate the tracker, Harry said. Clara swerved violently. The tires of the car slipped a little. He didn't have time to ask how Harry knew they were being tracked. He just knew. There was no time to ask that a kilometer ahead, they stopped at a rusty gate with a winged lion emblem on it. Below it, an old board with the words, Ashford Estate not for the public. Clara swallowed. Are you sure this place is safe? Harry only answered with a grim look. This is where your mother hid me 20 years ago, and where he hides the truth. The old house is located behind a field of dead lavender and trees that curl like old hands. The building was half collapsed, but the door was still tightly locked with a carved iron padlock. Harry pulled an old chain from behind a bush. The combination, still the same. He opened it, and the heavy wooden door creaked, like opening a tomb of memories. As soon as they entered, the smell of dust and damp would instantly seize the nose. Clara held the flashlight high. In the front room hung a portrait of a young woman with a tired smile, her mother. Harry led to the reading room, where his mother used to hide things. He touched one of the books on the shelf. It was titled Beyond Protocol, and the shelf shifted slowly, opening a crack in the brick wall that they're in. The room is small, full of dust and metal boxes. In the center, a single mahogany box upholstered in royal blue fabric. Clara opened the lid slowly. Inside there is a letter with the logo of the palace cassette recording photo of Lady Diana, Marian Ashford, and a little boy. Harry picked up the letter, his hand shaking. Written for me. Harry, if you're reading this letter, it means I failed to make you free, that I knew they would form their own narrative. I know who hates me because I talk, but I can't shut up. Marian Ashford was one of the few who believed me. She wasn't a waitress. He's a witness. It's a friend. He's your savior. If something happens to me, don't blame the world. But no, the truth is always stronger than the crown. My love is not dead. Never. Harry couldn't hold back his tears. His hands clenched into fists. They know. They all know. Clara found another letter, aimed at his mother, from someone named R.C. Marian, if you keep digging, I won't be able to protect you anymore. Even as a future king, I have limits that I would choose blood over love. I'm sorry, R.C. Clara looked at Harry. R.C. King Charles. Harry nodded. He loves your mother. But when the palace demanded silence, he chose the crown. Clara closed her eyes, her voice trembling. My mother, not just a savior. He's one of them. And me, part of this story. The door of the old house suddenly shook. Boom. Once. Twice. The sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Harry raised his head. They came faster than I thought. Clara locked the room from the inside. But they know they don't have much time. Harry opened the cassette tape using an old player in the corner of the room. Lady Diana's voice sounded in a whisper. If you find this, there is no turning back. The truth is in the bottom drawer, along with the documents of Operation Nightshade. Clara opened the drawer in question. Inside, a dark red envelope with the words, Nightshade, a state secret. But before they could open, the floor beneath them collapsed. They fall into a basement they never knew existed. And from above, William smiled. He looked down and said, Welcome to the last game. If your name is on this document, then you are part of an internal threat to the United Kingdom. Excerpts from Nightshade files classified level Omega debut fills their lungs. Clara coughed hard. Her eyes ached from the stone fragments. The light of a flashlight swayed in Harry's hand, illuminating a basement that looked more like a secret war bunker than part of an ordinary old house. This place, built to survive explosions, Clara murmured, her voice echoing in the damp, cold steel hallway. Harry opened the dark red envelope they were carrying before it fell into this space. Inside, a set of documents stamped Top Secret, a map of the underground headquarters, and an old photograph. Little Harry is being carried by Lady Diana, against the same background as the metal wall on which they now stand. Clara looked at the photo. Her tone began to harden. What exactly is this, Harry? Harry stared into the distance. It's not just about me. It's about who controls the story all along. They sit in the corner of the room. Harry began to read the contents of the document, which now took his breath away. The Nightshade Project began in 1990 as a security measure against defectors in royal circles. Target: Diana Spencer and individuals thought to be able to divulge internal secrets, including boys, the result of relationships considered damaging to the lineage. Identity: HRH Henry Charles D. Mountbatten Windsor, aka Subject Omega. 1. Status: lifetime supervision. Clara looked at him with a pale face. You are the target of their own system? Harry nodded. They didn't just exile me from the throne. They planted a state danger status in my birth certificate. Clara finds a separate file with the name Marian Ashford Level Delta Access. The interior features a brief note. Marian's daughter, Clara Ashford, was recorded in the system as the heir to the Omega-1 storage data. It is required not to know its role until the final phase of activation. Clara took a step back. What do you mean I'm a data heiress? I'm just a history professor, not part of this. Harry approached her slowly. My mother trusted her mother, and your mother entrusted all this to you. Clara looked down, hands shaking. A memory appeared her mother's voice as a child. If one day you find that blue box, do not open it alone. They finally found a way out of the basement. But when the metal door opened to the outside world, they were no longer alone. Three black cars without license plates have been waiting. From one of the cars, a woman in formal clothes, with a walkie-talkie and a keen eye, descends. You finally showed up, he said coldly. Prince Harry, and heir to the Nightshade Key. Harry pulled Clara back. Who are you? The woman answered while turning on her headset. I only guard one thing. Silence. Quickly, they slipped behind the old house and found an old drainage line that connected to the village. The helicopter began to sound. Clara held her breath as the searchlight almost hit them. Harry pulled her into the mud, and they crawled silently under the roots of trees and the rubble of iron pipes. They managed to escape to a small boat on the banks of the old river. Where to now? Clara asked with a shiver. Harry looked at him. There is one more place, the place where it all began. A place that not even my own royal family dared to go. Clara swallowed. What place? Harry answered, Langley Tower. Meanwhile, in London, an emergency broadcast appeared on the entire British media network. Prince William appeared on the royal podium that he smiled quietly and then said, My brother Harry has fallen under the influence of dangerous individuals and is spreading false documents that threaten the stability of the kingdom. In the name of our father, King Charles III, and for the sake of national security, we will take decisive measures against traitors and anyone who supports it. Harry and Clara watched the broadcast on the ship's small screen. Clara muttered, You just been declared an enemy of the state by your own family. Harry looked at the screen. The jaws are hardened. Then, let's give them a reason. You can destroy the palace with this, but you can also die from it. The sentence written on the stone wall of Langley Tower. Dense fog rolls around the mountains of Cumbria. Clara hugged herself in a shabby tweed coat, while Harry stared intently at the tall structure in the distance. Langley Tower, an old building not listed on any map. This place was never meant to be found, whispered Harry. The tower stood deserted, surrounded by rusty barbed wire and seemingly inactive surveillance cameras. But they knew, whatever was inside that tower was the reason why Lady Diana died. Once inside, through a back hallway hidden by the roots of an old tree, they found a room with stone walls and shelves full of documents. In the center of the room, an old iron safe with a mechanical cipher wheel that is inscribed on it with a hand engraving, Only the blood shall open the truth. Harry stared at her for a long time. He pulled out a small knife and scratched his finger. Blood dripped into the middle of the cipher wheel, and the safe is opened. What's in it? One shabby leather notebook with the initials DS1, copy of the birth certificate of Henry Charles David Spencer, not Mountbatten Windsor, and a mini cassette tape with the words, To my son, if one day you know who you are. Harry inserted the cassette into the old player. Lady Diana's soft voice sounded. Harry, if you hear this, then the truth has come out. Your real father is not Charles. You are not only the son of the king, you are the son of the struggle. Harry sat down. The world collapsed. My real father is not King Charles. Who is she, Clara? His voice almost broke. Clara looked at the last page of Diana's notebook. There was written the name, James Langley, MI6 agent, protector, and my last love. Harry shook his head. His breathing was blocked. That's mean, my whole life? All this time I've been living a lie. I am not heir to the throne. I am the heir of a truth that wants to be destroyed. Clara sat next to him. And that's why they're after you. You're not just a threat because of your blood, but because you are proof that this system can be dismantled. On the last page of Diana's notes, there is an old map of England with a red line from London to Scotland, written underneath. The truth must rise where it all began, Balmoral. Harry looked at Clara. Balmoral, summer palace of the royal family. Clara nodded. The last place your mother disappeared before returning to Paris. As they prepared to leave, an ancient alarm sounded. The walls of the tower shook. 5 figures dressed in black infiltrated through a tall window. One of them was wearing a half-face mask, with a stun gun in hand. Clara shouted, They know we're here. Harry runs to the bookshelf and pulls a secret lever. The floor opens, and they fall into an underground tunnel connected to the lake. As they swam to the surface, the sound of an explosion thundered from behind the tower. Langley Tower collapsed. Clara trembled. They want to destroy the whole building, rather than letting us bring the secret out. Harry held her hand. We're not just fighting the system. We're fighting the history they want to bury. On the screen of the British Intelligence Center, an elderly man dressed in a black suit stared at the data from the DNA scan. His assistant said, "Sir, the results match. 99.9% match up with Langley Sr." The man stood up. If the world knew that Diana's son was the son of a traitor to the system, then the whole monarchy will falter. His assistant looked at him confused. "What do you command, sir?" The man answered, "We have activated the Albion Protocol. Remove Harry. Remove Clara. Starting from Balmoral,